As you're aware, we're on Zoom and we're not in a open meeting as we've always had. The program will be similar to the way it's always been. We will have an opening statement by all the candidates, which will be 3 minutes. We will then have 3 rounds of questions, and we will have a closing statement from all the candidates, which will be 2 minutes. We will reverse the order of candidates as we go to each round, except for the first round of questions. So it will be 17, 17, 71, 17, 71. At the end of this meeting, we will give you a summary of the next meeting and the general meeting. Okay, so the first speaker will be Sasha Tabakin Smith.
Hi. Welcome, everybody, to this new Zoom world order during the pandemic. During this time of COVID, I hope you are all well and safe. I've been proud to serve on the board during this time while management and staff work exceptionally to meet this crisis. I'm running for re-election to the board of directors, which I have served on since 2014. I am the second vice president and the co-chair of the Electronics Communications Committee, new website, the Groups Committee, and board liaison to the Co-op Council. Previously, I served on the Co-op Council for 9 years, during which I served as vice chair, chaired the Grievance and Buildings and Grounds committees. I have over 15 years of experience in IT management, financial planning, budgeting, and operations management. As Information Technology Director for Columbia University, I am uniquely qualified to address the strategic long-term planning needed to keep Penn South affordable, limited equity, and financially sound. I have successfully advocated to expand our long-term savings to fund the next 10 to 20 years of capital projects. When I was elected, we had nothing close. I have pushed for better communication with the office for cooperators, including email submission of documents. I also worked to create a hybrid transition to email announcements, providing paper for those who desired. I have worked to make group and club membership renewals simpler through electronic and automatic means. Through my advocacy, more community rooms have been made available for all, and access has been opened up to accommodate broader requests. I'm a lifelong resident of New York City, raised in Westbeth, a graduate of Columbia University, and understand the importance of being part of a vibrant community. My grandmother was a long-term resident of Penn South. I have lived here for over 21 years, now with my wife and our 2 young sons. I am committed to the cooperative serving all members of the community, from toddlers to seniors. Raising a family here makes me passionate about both solving the challenges Penn South has today while creating forward-thinking solutions for the future. Central to this is keeping Penn South affordable, well-maintained, and well-managed now and in the future. Vote for me for re-election to the Penn South Board of Directors. As second vice president, I will continue to work tirelessly for you and to provide leadership and oversight to help make sure Penn South is running smoothly today and in the days and years to come. Thank you very much.
Hey, Trent, are you going to introduce Jerry as the second speaker?
Yes, I am. So the next speaker, the next person speaking is Gerard Pimpano, and you have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
I want to thank you for that introduction. And I want to say, although I am not a long-term cooperator, I have known of either directly or indirectly about mutual redevelopment my entire career, working career. I started with and maybe many people remember this, the International Ladies Garment Workers Union that built Mutual Redevelopment with others. And I always wondered what these mutual redevelopment bonds were on the books of the union. It was explained to me by a friend, a cooperator way back then, Bob Lazar. And later on, another friend brought me in, Mr. Kleinman, Larry Kleinman, another cooperator, to help with the Penn South Federal Credit Union. I started in 1996 with the credit union with Matthew Borrelli, who was then a board member of Mutual. And together we brought back the credit union from a near going out of business, being forced to merge with another credit union, losing the credit union entirely. And we spent a number of years just getting it back on a sound footing, both financially and profitable, making it more profitable. Matthew came up with a great idea, which was mortgage loans. And what we did was we were able to give mortgage loans to new cooperators and income through interest from this. We turned around and cooperators who had money were able to get nice CDs, rates from us. So it was a win-win for both. And later on, we found that the credit union, like most unions or most organizations, constantly need new ideas, new blood, new younger people. The world is pretty young, not that I'm exceptionally young, but I feel that being a board member, I can contribute. I can't go back and say that I was a board member and these are my accomplishments, but I think I can give a fresh look at it. As a certified public accountant in the state of New York and a notary, maybe a number of people know me from notarizing their income affidavits at the credit union. I think that I would be a positive asset to the Mutual Redevelopment Board, given my 40 years in the financial.
Your time
Gerard?
is up, so make it short.
Okay.
Just
Thank
finish
you.
your sentence.
Thank you, please. I need your support. Okay, Morris.
The next person speaking is Sarah Khan. Sarah, you too have 3 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Sasha. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me tonight. I hope that you are all healthy and safe during this very difficult time. I feel so fortunate to live here in Penn South, the home that I have known and loved my entire life. At the same time, this is an extremely challenging time for Penn South. With COVID hitting New York City hard financially, I am concerned about Penn South's finances remaining healthy in order to keep us affordable and limited equity. It is also imperative that we become active in the movement for racial equity. We need to not just talk about racial equity, but also make changes. Since the bios came out, I have gotten questions from cooperators about what my bio really means. I said that Penn South is such a wonderful place, so you may wonder why what I wrote in my bio matters. Let me try to put it simply. The structure of the Penn South Corporation is that the general manager answers to the board. This structure gives the board responsibility to make sure that cooperators' needs are being met by the general manager. In my 9 years on the board, I repeatedly saw the reverse. Instead of the general manager being overseen by the board, I saw the general manager in charge of the board, and the board leadership act as if they reported to him. At every board meeting, instead of the board president, the general manager would set the agenda, would sit at the head of the table, and would steer the conversation. While our former general manager was very successful at managing our buildings, there were significant issues. Over the years, I've had cooperators and staff members repeatedly tell me they were on the receiving end of angry tirades. Cooperators told stories of meetings where a former manager yelled at them furiously while they sat powerless and worried about what would happen to their apartment if they got him angrier. I sat in board meetings where a former manager yelled at individual board members or to the entire board. When this happened, the board presidents did not step in to stop it. It was clear to me who was in charge. Because the board presidents did not intervene, other board members and myself tried to suggest solutions. We suggested many things, such as management training courses, having meetings without our former manager in order to establish the independence of the board. Let me be clear that the problem as I see it is that the former presidents did not fulfill their responsibility to supervise the general manager. A small group of us advocated for change repeatedly, but there seemed to be no opportunity for change. Now things have changed. The board will choose a new general manager. It is extremely important that the board be clear in our expectations for this new manager. It is the responsibility of the board to be in charge so it can serve the cooperators. I believe it is important that I be part of the process of choosing a new general manager as a voice of reason and a voice that advocates for having a board that fulfills its responsibility to the cooperators and moves Penn South successfully into the future. Thank you.
Your time is up. Thank you, Sarah. The next person speaking is Lloyd Blazen. 3 minutes, Lloyd, for your opening statement.
Thank you, Petra. Appreciate it. So I'm running for my third term here on the board of directors. I've had 6 years on the board. I ask for your vote so that I can continue to contribute to this amazing co-op that's provided my family a wonderful place to live and prosper. Where my wife Janine and I have raised 2 children who are now one's in college, one has graduated, and it just afforded us an amazing family and experience, a home that was affordable, and I want to make sure that a living experience like that is affordable for many of the families in the future, that this co-op continues in this manner. So I would talk about my Penn South experience. I think that's most relevant. I served on the co-op council for 10 years. While I was at the council, I had an opportunity to serve as the co-chair with Ashton Span for 3 years, and I believe 1 year as an independent chair, learning a lot about what was going on in our co-op, attending many, many board meetings and operations meetings. So those 4 years gave me a lot of insight into how the board worked, and that from that experience, I became very interested in joining the board. So I did run for election. I feel very fortunate to serve, and I was able to do a number of things on the board the past 6 years. I did co-chair the election committee one time with Jenna Feist. I currently serve as the chair on the storage and space committee, which I feel is very important, and I'll get to that in a minute. I also serve as a board liaison to 2 very large clubs, the Jeff DeLay Intergenerational Garden Club and the Wood Shop. So there are challenges with the clubs. We want to make sure that they continue to grow. I'll speak to that in a moment also. So as far as the chair of the Storage and Space Committee, the committee is operating in a manner that is open to cooperators. We formed a subcommittee that allows participation of any cooperator who is interested in looking in the music space or art space. What we've been able to do is recapture previously used studios that were used by management for our window and for our HVAC operations many years ago, and now we reclaim them. And the board has promised that these studios, large spaces, that will be returned to the co-op for use as an artist space. Previously, these artist spaces were rented by individuals, and we want to open it up to the entire co-op So the two spaces will be a large room that's dedicated to the arts, and the other one will be dedicated to music. Right now, they're empty shells. So,
Lloyd,
yes.
your time is up. So you want to finish up your sentence, please?
That was quick. I didn't know if I was going to get a warning. So thank you for listening. I hope to continue explaining more about that in my next chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd. Rocco Armanelli, your next 3 minutes for your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Petra. So I've been on the board for the past 6 years. I'm currently the third vice president of the board, as voted on by other board members. For those who don't know me, I'm a lifelong Chelsea resident, born and raised here. My wife and I are currently raising our 3 kids in Penn South, who are 6 and 7-year-old boys, and a soon-to-be 1-year-old girl. So we got the girl, which is nice. I work in marketing at one of the biggest financial firms in the country, and I have my MBA in marketing and finance from Fordham. So over the past 6 years, we've done a lot, but nothing more important than keeping Penn South limited equity for the next 3 decades. That's a big deal. And we secured that. But there's still a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of work to be done. So first, we're undergoing a search for the next GM, which is the first time I'll have a new GM in over 20 plus years. And I'm very involved in that process. This is an important step for Penn South and one that will impact Penn South for years to come. So it's important that we get this one right. Second is our retail space. They've been hit hard, and we need to figure out ways to help them while also protecting Penn South. If you look around the city, there are a lot of empty storefronts, which we don't want here at Penn South. So we need to have a plan in place to mitigate our exposure and come up with creative ways to help those businesses while protecting Penn South's cash flow, which is really important for us. Third is trying to keep costs manageable at Penn South. Given this pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of our community lives on a fixed income. We have to do everything we can to protect them as much as possible while looking out for the community as a whole. Because that's what we are. We're one big community and we have to look out for each other. And lastly, I consider myself a voice of reason on the board. I look at both sides of an argument, consider what the rational path forward is. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, but it actually is with our board. I'll just leave it at that. So I consider myself the voice of reason. So in closing, I want to thank you for your support over the past 6 years. And I would appreciate your support in this upcoming election. So please, please, please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocco. Next up, Jenna Feist. You are next. 3 minutes, please.
Can you restart my clock? I was muted. Thank you so much, Petra. Good evening. My name is Jenna Feist. I hope you're all safe and healthy during this continuing pandemic. I am a current board member, and I'm with you this evening to ask you to elect me to another term on our board. I serve on our board of directors to support the community that I grew up in. My parents were original residents, and I think Penn South is very special. Our residents rely on Penn South for a safe, affordable place to live. I strongly support limited equity housing and passing on the benefits we enjoy to the next generation of residents. But it's not enough to believe in limited equity. Our co-op must be managed wisely and well. It's the board's job to oversee our management team and to help make important decisions. There are only 5 seats on our board every year, but this year we have 7 candidates. So how can you distinguish between the candidates? One way is business experience, and my business experience distinguishes me from the others. Our co-op is our home, but it's also a multi-million-dollar corporation with over 100 employees. So business experience matters. Not just co-op experience, which is really important, but also professional business experience. I'm a lawyer, a former New York State legislative aide, a business professional that currently manages over a team of 20 people. I'm a professional problem solver, and I bring that skill to our board. That business experience is also extremely important this year as we search for a new manager and reorganize our management structure. Choosing a new manager is critical for us. That manager skills matter, building management skills and people management skills. Our buildings and infrastructure must be managed excellently. But our employees should also be managed excellently and respectfully. And every resident should be treated like the owner they are. Our new manager should respect every resident and should have excellent interpersonal skills, not just excellent building management skills. Some of my primary goals for my work on the board are professionalism, process, and transparency. We need to run our co-op in a professional manner and I have decades of experience working in a number of different government and business workplaces. We need to create processes that treat our employees and residents fairly, and I have professional experience doing just that. We need to be transparent about what happens in our co-op, and many of our transparent processes started with my suggestions or in committees that I co-chaired. Professionalism, process, and transparency all come together in a project that Sasha mentioned earlier, which is the Electronic Communications Committee. We've been working to modernize and professionalize our processes so that you can communicate electronically with the office, do service tickets that will allow you to work faster with them, and will also create an audit trail. So if there are issues, we can all see what the conversation and the correspondence look like. I'm endorsed by many current and past board members, which I think says a lot about my contribution to the board. If you reelect me, I'll continue to use my experience to support our cooperative. I'll continue to use my experience to fight for your participation, and I'll continue to use my experience to protect you and our financial security. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jenna. Next, last but not least, Matthew Borrelli. 3 minutes, please, for your opening statement. Unmute. Unmute.
There we go. Still muted. I did hit unmute. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. So my name is Matthew Borrelli. Good evening, fellow cooperators. I hope this evening finds you well and healthy, and you're managing the COVID experience that we're all trying to navigate, making us very anxious. I live at 330 West 28th Street, apartment 4F. I have been living in Penn South for 30 years with my wife and 2 children. I have been the president of the Penn South board for the last 3 years. And it's been an honor to serve you guys, you cooperators. I look forward to your vote again, hopefully, to re-elect me to the board. There's a lot to be done. I agree. And tonight we're probably going to have a conversation about some of the things that we need to do. I began my career in Penn South working with the Penn South Parents Committee, rebuilding the Sand Park playground. And I find myself now as the president, and I'm doing the best I can. We've had a lot of changes this year. As we all know, our general manager of 25 years decided to leave. And it felt for a while like I was the general manager, having to spend as much as 20 hours a week in the early period of his departure, working with our interim general manager, Brian Dietzig, which I assume many of you know. My background is I'm in the finance industry. I manage close to $200 million a year for various clients. I am a customer service person. I work with individuals, and I try to take the same approach with you, fellow cooperators, is that you are a customer. And that's the message I give to our management, that we need to be customer service oriented. We must solve the problems that they're encountering, and most problems can be solved. I hope that you will vote for me, and you will support this fabulous community. I am so lucky to live here. I am a capitalist by profession, but I live the life of a socialist at Penn South. We are a community. We pitch in and help each other. We deliver meals. We start credit unions. We have a senior center. This is a fabulous experience that nothing in my life could ever be as impressive as this experience at Penn South. And I would like to continue doing that. And I have some items that I'll be talking to you about that I would like to focus on going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, everyone, for your opening statements. I think we can proceed now with the questions, Morris.
Yes. The questions, some of them will be the same for some of the candidates, and some will be different. We only received 3 questions for specific candidates, and we received 3 questions for all the candidates. So the first round will be individual, and some of the candidates will get the same question. Rounds 2 and round 3 of the questions will be the same for all 7 candidates because there are no more questions for individual candidates. Okay, so the first candidate, Sasha Bachman Smith, question 1 from Howard Babick, Building 3B. One of the biggest cooperator complaints at Penn South, as it appears to be in the case throughout the city, is noise. So I'd like to ask you a 2-part question regarding noise. 1, as a member of the board, would you be willing to look into amending the bylaws to allow for an 80% rule, as many buildings in the city have, where the co-op can insist that cooperators with numerous noise complaints place carpets or rugs on 80% of their floor? And 2, as a member of the board, will you consider amending the bylaws to restrict certain loud musical instruments, such as drums, trumpets, amplified instruments, to be played in the apartments at any hour? Little long, but that's the question for you, Sasha.
Thank you. Hey, Howie. Sorry, don't get to see you here. Thanks for the question. I think it's really insightful. And I think, some of the history of my approach to things is I'm a strong supporter of cooperator involvement and letting the cooperators decide what they want. So if this is something that people want, I am glad to get behind it. Just like before I was on the board and I was on the co-op council, and there were some missteps with the lobby design and implementation of the lobby renovations. I advocated successfully for the co-op council to intervene and for cooperators to get to vote on what would actually go into the lobbies. So my philosophy is that we're shareholders here. This is our corporation, 2,820 units, and we should decide what we want collectively. So I hope that addresses the first part. The second part around instruments, I would say, similar, but I would add one of the reasons I've been a big supporter of the creation of the shared space committee. Work closely with the chairs there, and been a big proponent of the of exploring music and art shared spaces, garden shared spaces, and specifically for the music shared space, I think the question is how can having a facility help alleviate issues that cooperators have, between apartments where there are instruments and other things that people are that contribute to noise. I know a number of musicians, they would prefer not to be.
Your time is up, Sasha, so please run.
So hopefully we can address that with better use of some of our shared resources. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is for Gerard Pimpano, and your question is: in this digital age, why must the $500 delivery move-in fee be cashed and held for 2 weeks before being returned. Why not a hold of 1 day or two on your debit or credit card? Security can email management if no problems. The charge doesn't go through. Just a hold. The way it's being done now is draconian. Gerard.
Yes. As to the question of having a deposit made, $500 for deliveries, I see no reason why we have to insist on cash or a check and then hold it and then get it back after a normal 3 days, I think it was. Sometimes it's longer. I think that we can, after we explore how to do it, to hold a debit card or some other form of electronic payment and release it after the job is done and it's verified there's no other charges, damage to anything. So I think that yes, it should be done in the most expedient way possible. And certainly we should look into that and see the feasibility and go to a faster method. Okay, that's my answer.
Thank you, Gerard.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question is for Sarah Khan. It's going to be the same question that was asked of Sasha. I can read it all, or it's a noise question dealing with carpeting and dealing with not allowing drums, trumpets, and amplified instruments. Is that okay, or you would like me to read it?
No, I'm
okay.
Thank you. So the noise issue is a really big issue in Penn South. There are definitely neighbors that get really upset at other neighbors, and everyone gets, tempers flare. It's a hard question. As far as the 80% carpets or rugs on the floor, or restricting people playing musical instruments at any time, I would have to say I would want to know what the cooperators thought, because at the end of the day, we as board members are really just representing the cooperators. We are not there to just make our minds up for what we like and advocate for what we want. I do tend to go or to support less restrictions on our cooperators. I don't like to have, I don't think it's helpful to have rules that make living difficult for people. So people that are allergic and can't have rugs, or people that kids that want to play piano, I don't believe they should be restricted during normal hours. So it's a tough situation, and it's not an easy answer and not an easy win, and we would have to find out what cooperators want. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. The next question is for Lloyd Blazen. You have a question from Joan Starr in Building 6B. How do we emphasize tolerance when the mood of the country is hostility? I took my granddaughter to the park, and she overheard terrible racism.
Thanks for that question, Joan. It's a very good question. And it's very upsetting to hear these types of things. And you're not the only one that has brought this issue up. Other cooperators have witnessed some bad behavior from neighbors and from fellow operators. And I should mention that, it's been brought to the board's attention by LEAPS that we want to make a clear and very firm statement about no racism or would be tolerated here in Penn South. But this is something that I think the board and the co-op has always felt strongly about. So point in case, I think, is there is a new committee. We just started meeting to address these issues. And this is something I think that it's being chaired by Petra, and co-chairs are Jenna, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the other co-chairs. Sasha. Anyways, we're addressing this and trying to come up with with Marty. Sorry, Marty, to listen to our cooperators. So we're going to have listening sessions. We're going to try to address this and have an organized effort to hear cooperators and to talk to these issues. I mean, we can't control what happens outside of, out of our own space, but I think we can make it very clear to the co-op that this type of behavior, that racism, that hate, will not be tolerated here, and we have to address it. So we have to be very vocal about it, and we have to talk about it. So you'll see more from the board on this issue. I'm very proud of what that committee is looking to do. So at this point, I'd also like to talk about the question I just heard that Howie gave to Sasha and about the noise issue. I was talking about the shared music space where we will have approximately like a 900 square foot room that we would like to convert into a new music studio that will be soundproof and acoustically treated on the interior.
You need to finish your sentence, okay, Lloyd?
So we intend to have music that will be in a soundproof room and in the studio in the near future. This may alleviate some of the noise issues with musical instruments.
Okay. Thank you. Next question will go to Rocco Adamanelli. Rocco, you have the same, there was no individual question for you. So you have the noise question also. Would you like me to read it or?
No, I'm okay.
Got it.
Thank you, though.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know part of me feels like noise is the fabric of living in New York City, right? You hear your neighbors downstairs, you hear the fire engines. I don't know if anybody ever went away and you go to the country, it gets really quiet. It's almost too quiet at times, right? You kind of miss that when you're living here. But I understand where noise becomes a problem. And nobody's mentioned this yet, but we do have quiet hours in Penn South, where you have to keep the noise down after a certain time. It's either 9. I want to say it's 9 p.m., but don't hold me to that. But it's around there sometime. So there should be no musical instruments playing after a certain time in the evening. And if there is, that should get reported because we do have quiet time. I'm also in the camp that what Sarah mentioned is I have 3 kids, and they make some noise. And I'm fortunate that I have nice neighbors, and I think it's the cookies and donuts during Christmas and Halloween that kind of makes them tolerate it as much as possible. But it really is. It's about, we have throw rugs everywhere. It's about being compassionate toward your neighbors, understanding the noise you're making, and I think that would be the first step. If there are specific neighbors who are making too much noise, I think, it's a simple conversation with your neighbor, and I understand some people don't want to do that, but it's really about respecting your neighbors and understanding where you're coming from and what you can do for that. But we are working for the entire cooperator, right? And it's what the majority of the co-op does, not what a handful of people want. And with that, I'd be hesitant to over-regulate cooperators with noise. I think the first step is if there are serious issues, whether it's musical instruments, and Lloyd has a great solution with the soundproof room that's coming up, or if it's just, kids or voices, I think conversations should happen first. And then if that doesn't help mitigate it to a certain extent, I think, we can explore second steps. But I think right now, noise just in New York City in general is the joys of it, and the pitfalls of it is just this living in New York.
Thank you, Rocco.
Thank you.
Okay. The next question is for Jenna Feist. The question comes from Alicia Porras Maldinovic in Building 6B. During this pandemic, the maintenance of the buildings need to be improved. laundry corridors in different areas have insects. I would like this to be considered. Many complaints are coming from different buildings. Has this been a consideration?
Thanks so much. Great question. We're trying our best during the pandemic, making sure that we're prioritizing keeping things clean and sanitary so that people are comfortable in the buildings. If people are seeing bugs anywhere, they should be reporting it to maintenance so that those areas can be cleaned or can be sprayed. We often also sometimes, unfortunately, have problem residents who may not keep their apartments to a certain cleanliness standard. And again, those have to be reported so that people can try to work with them. The senior center can try to work with them if they're seniors, and we can try to get some sort of help to those folks that need it. On the noise issue that wasn't asked, but I will address, we used to have an 80-20 rule. Our attorney actually suggested that we remove it from the proprietary lease for certain reasons. It doesn't mean that people don't have to control noise. If you're having a noise problem, you should contact the office and they will try to work with your neighbors to ensure that rugs or other things are used. There's a general rule about enjoying your apartment that we can help work with those people to ensure that you are able to enjoy your apartment and not have too much noise. And as Rocco said, there are also quiet hours. I think that it's really important that folks ask these questions and that the board respond to them. We always want board residents to send letters to the board and ask us questions. It is really interesting to hear what people have to say, and sometimes there are very obvious answers, like we don't have an 80-20 rule, but we do actually work with people to ensure that they do put down rugs because there is a general rule about enjoying your apartment. So just because there isn't an 80-20 rule doesn't mean that we can't help if you're having noise issues with your neighbor. And thank you very much. I think my time is up.
Okay, thank you, Jenna. The next question is for Matthew Borrelli from Elba Cabada in Building 8B. When an adult child or grandchild moves in with you and did not live in Penn South before, why can't you qualify for a 2-bedroom? Per review by a lawyer at Corey Johnson's office, nothing in the bylaws says that a relative must be born here or been on a lease in the past to qualify for the larger apartment, as long as they meet the definition of relative. You're muted, Matthew.
Okay, there you go. Figured it out this time. So that's a good question. This is a kind of question that's actually coming up right now. It will be coming before the board. HPD needs to give us guidance on this. Our council needs to give us guidance on this. And actually, the board will be making a decision. The actual answer for your very personal question, I don't feel prepared to answer it this evening. But if you would like to write me a letter, I'd be happy to discuss it with you. My email address is mborrelli@psb.coop. On the noise issue, it is correct. It is not the bylaws that handle the noise issues. It is our occupancy agreement, and in there is specific verbiage about the times that you're allowed to be louder than normal. Management also spends a lot of time doing conflict resolution regarding when there are noise issues between neighbors, and they try very hard to work this out, making suggestions such as putting in rugs and getting the neighbors to work together. When it comes to the $500 hold, yes, we should be able to do that. That seems like a no-brainer to me, that we should be able to have a simple rule and a rapid turnaround for the $500 coming back to you, to the cooperator. And under COVID, in terms of the maintenance priorities, under COVID, there's been a lot of changes that are going on in terms of how our staff is its time is being prioritized. A lot more time is being put towards cleaning. And you may have noticed that lawns are being cut on the weekends, which can be annoying and can be noisy, but because the schedule that they're trying to keep and get everything done. They've got staff working 10-hour days as opposed to 8-hour days. There are efforts to keep them healthier, have them have less time here so that there's less
Okay, Matthew, you need to finish your sentence.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That ends the first round of questions. We're going to go to the second round. For all the candidates, all 7 of you will get the same question because there are no more individual questions. Okay, so round 2 and round 3, everyone will answer the same question. And as you're aware, if you have extra time, you can talk about anything you like. Question 2 is sort of a combined question from George Weaver in Building 6B and Ken Chin in Building 3A. Fossil fuels have spoiled our planet and disrupted our climate. Banks and colleges are divesting. Many cooperatives think we should protect our planet and divest our power plant from oil and gas. If you were elected, would you support a task force to prepare a changeover to fossil-free fuels? What action are you planning in other alternative energies for this community? And what about getting an EV charging station in our parking lot, like other buildings like Southbridge Towers has done, and solar paneling on our roof? It's a lot, so if you will need me to repeat it, let me know. Okay, but we're starting backwards. So Matthew, you were first. Now you're number 7. You go first.
Okay. So this is a great question, and the board has been spending time on a number of these areas. We did a study to look at whether it was feasible for us to do solar panels on the top of the roof. And at the current juncture, it is not financially feasible for us to do that. But we will continue to look at that. We have formed a committee that is being headed by Marty DeCat, and it is an environmental committee. And we are hoping to see that kick off very soon, where meetings open to the community will start to be held. And part of it will be looking at the very good success that this community has had with various types of environmental behavior. Going carbon neutral for our power plant is a tall order, but we work very hard at that. We have since retrofitted our plants where we use natural gas the majority of the time, which reduces our carbon emissions. Of course, natural gas is still a carbon fuel, and over time, we will need to figure out a way if the state is going to become carbon neutral. Battery power, battery storage areas on the campus could be a solution. These are things that have been discussed by myself and the general manager for the last couple of years. We're looking into this. The board is very interested in this. And again, I think it's an excellent question. And the board continues to be interested in how we can ever improve our environmental footprint. The conversation about batteries is a rapidly changing topic that they are continually improving the storage capacity and the expense of batteries. And don't be surprised one day that on the campus, we have a battery storage facility that allows us to reconnect the Con Ed and be part of the microgrid that is the future of energy for the city of New York.
Thank you, Matthew. The next question goes to Jenna Feist. It's the same question. Should I repeat it?
No,
Summarize
that's okay.
it? You got it?
Yep. So thank you so
Jenna.
much for the question. As Matt said, we've been trying to work with the garage to get a charging station into that space. Also, a few years ago, I was the co-chair of a committee with Sasha that explored whether we could update our roofs for green roofs, solar roofs, or roof decks. The issue was that every 20 years, we re-roof. And if you're going to add that kind of stuff, you have to add it add supports underneath during the re-roofing process. So we took a look at it, and the committee concluded that green roofs or solar roofs were not economically viable because we have very tall buildings with very small roofs. And we also concluded that a roof deck, although desirable, was very expensive. And one thing I talked about in my bio was thinking out of the box. So as we were on this committee, I thought to myself, people really want garden space. We have so many people asking us for garden space, and we have people asking us for roof decks. Maybe we could get those two things together and pay for the roof decks with some sort of garden club, because some of our clubs do charge fees for the amenities. And actually running those numbers, we could have paid off a garden space on our roofs in about 10 years, costing nothing to the residents that didn't want to use it. But the problem was that we don't have elevators that go up to the roof, and you can't do that kind of space unless it has full accessibility. But it's a good example of thinking outside the box to say, is there a way that we can pay for this that doesn't cost everyone money, that it pays for itself? And the answer was, unfortunately, we couldn't do it because of the ADA rules. Also, no one has mentioned, we did do a rather large study to see if we could put solar panels above the outdoor parking area that we have over near building 6. And I was very active in that. And unfortunately, it did not pan out because of the financial viability issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenna. Rocco Adaminelli. Should I repeat the question? Are you good?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Morris. Yeah, honestly, I don't think there's much more to add. I think Matthew and Jenna covered it pretty well. I was also involved in discussions where we were looking to do the outdoor parking area and creating the solar panels above the parking lot. But for a number of reasons, it didn't work out. I think what you're hearing from the board members right now is that this is definitely on our radar, and we're looking at all different types of ways to mitigate our carbon footprint, other different ways to generate natural energy, and we're keeping all options open. So right now it's not feasible. But that's an industry that changes so rapidly within a few months and a few years that what's not possible today may be possible tomorrow, the next year. So it's something that we can't do right now, but it's something that we would definitely keep an eye on and see what we can do moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, Rocco, you have a minute left. You can talk about anything you want if you like.
I'll save it for the end, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Next question will go to Lloyd Blazen. It's the same question, Lloyd.
All right. Thank you for the question. I think we've got very good answers from our other candidates. I do want to mention that I do work for the city of New York, and through the mayor's office, there are a number of efforts in the city to increase the charging stations throughout all 5 boroughs. And New York City has a mandate to go 100% electric on its fleet. And I work with the fleet services. I work for currently New York City mayors of media and entertainment. But I did approach the mayor's office and said that we have a power station, and it brought to the attention of our former general manager that we were very interested, and we looked at it, and he was able to have a number of meetings with the city about coordinating putting in charging stations for automobiles. We talked about doing it on our parking deck, but also possibly making the entire of 26th Street a charging station where our power plant would be able to provide a charging station. Not only would this be something that would enable non-polluting vehicles in our city through more efficient gas charging, but it also would be potentially a revenue source for the co-op. So it didn't work out at the time, but I think we need to revisit things like this. And Jenna talks about thinking outside the box, and she's right. That's what the board needs to do. We need to look at all the possibilities, the things that are happening here in the city, and we have a lot that we can find out about. There are so many answers to our current problems, and I think that when you have a creative board, you can come up with creative answers. So I just want to say that was just one of them. again, another creative answer to some of the problems noise issue is the music studio, where now lessons can take place in the studio, where people can practice in the studio. So that's another potential resolution to the noise issue.
Thank you, Lloyd. Next, Sarah Kahn. I think you got the question, I guess.
I do. Thanks, Morris.
Thank you, Sarah.
That is an excellent question. As my teenage daughter keeps telling me, she's a senior in high school, if we do not fix this climate change problem, all our other problems aren't going to matter. So I 100% would support a task force to look at our power plant, figure out how we can make it more sustainable. And as everyone already talked about, we have looked at various solar options. I was on the board at the time, and they just, financially, it is an issue, but we're going to keep looking at it. I know everyone is very committed to that. As far as EV charging stations, there was one EV charging station that was put in by the power plant. I was disappointed that was the location chosen. And I, at the time, advocated that we find a place where our cooperators could access it, but that did not work out. So anyway, it's a great question, and it's a question that everyone should keep asking, and we should all keep looking and pushing for solutions. Thank you.
Okay. You want to say anything else, Sarah? You're good.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Gerard Pimpano. Same question.
Yes, Marsh, you can call me Jerry. It's okay.
Okay, Jerry, that'd be easier for me. Thank you.
The green question is such an easy question to answer, and yet such a hard thing to remedy. Of course, we all want to go green. Of course, we know that if we don't stop the fossil fuels, our planet will be poisoned or deteriorated. The scientists keep saying that we have less and less time to fix this problem. The board, from listening to the other candidates, seems to have explored this quite thoroughly. Unfortunately, we're not like, we do not have wide open spaces. We cannot put rows and rows of solar panels. We cannot put windmills up. We are, until new technology comes out, hydrogen cells or something, we are relegated to small remedies, such as for a charging station, maybe a solar panel with a battery in a particular spot that might do the job. But we always need to be looking for a solution to these problems. And I think that's what we'll be doing in the future. I'd like to turn for a moment to the noise question till I run out of time. And as you know, I've experienced, I'm sure other people have experienced, sometimes I've caused it. Our walls are not exactly that thick. If you play your TV too loud, or you make a hammer and nail in a wall, it's going to reverberate everywhere. Certainly, playing a loud instrument such as a trombone or even a piano.
Jerry, you can finish up on the next round.
Okay.
Thank you. Sasha, same question.
Thank you. Really important question. Thanks for asking. This is a big problem. This is huge. And personally, it pains me every time I walk by the power plant and I see an oil truck delivering fuel. You know, it hurts, and we need to fix this. We are, I don't know how much people know about our power plant. We're not connected to the grid. We're not connected to Con Ed. we are super efficient. We squeeze the energy out of every therm that gets burned. We do cogen, where we use the waste heat for our water systems and cooling and heating. So the cost, the dollar cost of what we get out of every unfortunately fossil fuel that we burn is very much in our favor. The problem with that is that it tilts the finances the wrong way when we look at alternative energy sources. So it's this kind of, it's this balance between those two. And another big problem we have, I said we're not on the Con Ed grid. Well, since we're not on the Con Ed grid, pretty much all of the incentives are targeted towards being on the grid. If you're not on the grid, you're not eligible. This is a huge problem, and I support the idea of a task force. The task force needs to go beyond our borders, if you will, of Penn South, and needs to get policies changed and legislation changed so that we can actually become eligible for these incentives, which are the incentives are what make this worthwhile for others. And that's what we need to pursue. And until we fix that, I don't know that we're going to be able to get there. And I really want us to get there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sasha. Okay, that ends the second round of questions. We will now go into the third round of questions, final round of questions. We will do the reverse order. So, Sasha, you're going to be first. This is from Edward Donovan, Building 3B. Can't we get some order to the deluge of packages that are left hanging around our mailboxes? It is becoming a serious problem and one that needs our attention now that the holiday giving season is fast approaching. Christmas trees by mail, online. Wow. Okay, Sasha. You're on mute, so.
Okay, thank you. Right back up. Thank you, Edward. Yeah, it's a big problem. It has been explored. Right now, the temporary solution that management has put in place centers around the porters, and if they have extra time on top of pandemic and new cleaning protocols and keeping us all safe, is they work to bring up the packages to the doors. And I think we've seen it. The package delivery has exploded with the pandemic. So if we thought we had an issue before, it's getting bigger and bigger. A number of potential solutions have come up around all different, I think at the Co-op Council, the concept of a package room, a dedicated package room came up. Again, looking at the costs around that and staffing it versus volunteers running it. There's a lot of intricacies that need to be looked at. I think these things need to be relooked at because it is amplified through the pandemic. And other more passive solutions have been explored. I think management has had talks with, I think it was Amazon has a package locker service. It's not exclusively Amazon. It can be used for any carrier. The numbers didn't look compelling. I think we need to make sure it's something that everyone in the community wants. But we have to do something. We have to tackle this. We have to figure out a better way and really deter. There's the potential for attracting theft and us becoming a magnet with the multitude of packages sitting there for people who do.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.
Same question, Gerard Pimpano.
Yes, I've seen that with the COVID-19. Many more people are ordering through Amazon. There are many more packages being delivered, some small, some very large. And how do we take care of this problem? Again, we have to explore the possibilities of either having someone disperse these packages during the day, or having a central place to put them where cooperators can come and pick them up. Some packages, delivery services bring it to your door. Many don't. And it can be a problem. It's something that we need to have some fresh ideas on, and maybe a way to deliver the packages, whether it's a porter or somebody else, can be introduced. I just want to finish my thought concerning the noise. A big instrument or piano or something. I think somebody mentioned there are set hours for them to be played. It'd be, I think, too much to ask your neighbor to put up with someone playing the trumpet in the middle of the night. There are hours set aside for this, and we need to talk to those people about either going to a music room or just refraining from playing these things off hours when people are trying to sleep or just getting up or something. And that's my thought on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Next speaker will be Sarah Khan.
Thank you, Morris.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you know, the packages are a problem for all of us. And I know that the board has worked on it and is continuing to look at possible solutions. I believe it's been, you know, it's been a problem on everyone's mind, and the board is definitely working towards a solution there. I am going to take this time to, instead of talking about that, talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and the movement for racial equity in our country right now, which is, you know, so important to me and to the co-op and the country, the city, everyone. I'm really excited to hear that there is a committee that has been started on the board. I did not know that. And that is a great start. At my job, which I work in a school, an elementary school, we also are very committed to making sure that our school is as equitable as possible. And we have a committee that I am a part of where we are looking at research and looking into how we can keep education equitable for all students in the city. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Same question to Lloyd Blazen.
So I just want to add to the issues with the packages. We have installed security cameras in each of the mailrooms, and our security has been pretty good at catching folks who try to steal packages and a number of apprehensions. It's just a problem that has to be dealt with on an ongoing basis. And some of the alternatives that the board had looked at were problems in of themselves. A lot of people didn't like the idea of large lockers. You know, the expense in having an employee or concierge dedicated to delivery disbursement is something else to consider. So we will continue to look at how to resolve these issues. I do want to, at this point, go on to talk about something else that I hadn't had a chance to address. And one of the things I mentioned in my bio is my interest in not just the musical, but the art space, and also looking at space in general. And that's the committee that I've been able to chair, which is the space committee, shared space committee. Not only are we looking at clubs and use of a room for music and art, but also solutions to try to shorten the wait for things like storage lockers and parking spaces. And that's an issue for a lot of people. I received a number of emails about that. And we're going to have to look at this again. It was looked at very seriously 5 years ago. There were some price increases on some of these amenities. And that goes hand in hand also with the need to our need to look at our budget and what's going on with our revenue streams here. So at the end of tonight, I am going to talk to that. Rocco mentioned it. I think all the board members are aware of what we're facing in the near future, and it's going to be a real big issue for us if we don't resolve our current retail and commercial tenant space rentals. So all of these things fit in together, watching our budget and how we operate.
Thank you, Lloyd. Next, same question to Rocco Ottaminelli.
Thank you, Morris. Yeah, just quickly on the box, I think we've all landed in the same place. I remember one of the solutions that we looked at was maybe having a dedicated place for boxes, but liability was also an issue, and how do we mitigate for that? So there obviously is a lot of work to be done within that space. But I do want to pivot with a little bit of time that I have left, and so I think something that we should really be focusing on is diversity, or probably the lack of diversity that we have on the board. I would love to see more people of color running for the board. I would love to see more women running for the board. I'd love to see more women of color running for the board. And I think that's probably the board's biggest weakness right now, is that we don't really have much diversity on the board. We've had some people come and go, but I feel like we do need a board that represents the co-op as a whole. And I think that's probably a focus point, of mine moving forward, is like, how do we engage people who are diverse to get them to run for the board? Because it can be intimidating running for the board, right? It's a lot of work. It's a big commitment, and it's a little terrifying, right? You come into a room, and there are 14 people who have done this for years. And you're the new person. You probably may not know that many people there, but I think it's a focus that we really have to work on over the next 1, 2, 3 years, and actively recruit and reach out to women of color, men of color, and just try and get more diversity on this board, because it's something that we're lacking right now. And I think having those diverse opinions will actually make us a much better board. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocco. Next, Jenna Feist.
Thanks very much. We do need a lot more diversity on our board. And one of the reasons why we lack diversity on the board is some of the issues that Sarah had brought up. There has been a real history of going after people who some certain people don't like. There was a sort of, there's a history of sending out objectionable pamphlets that have things that are half-truths or just falsehoods. We had a very talented African-American woman on the board a few years ago who, quite honestly, I think we owe an apology to as a board. In terms of how she was treated, I think it was quite shameful. If people see board members being attacked, if people see anonymous pamphlets being put up attacking board members, who wants to run for the board? The people here who are still running for the board are, in some ways, people who feel like, despite those things, they need to represent their community and they need to represent well. I feel like I have some of the most extensive business, legislative, and legal experience of any board member. And I feel it's very important for me to continue being on the board and protecting my family and my sister's family and my friends' families. But it's really tough being on the board when that's the kind of thing that happens. So we do need diversity. And I think Rocco is an amazing board member, and I'm in no way being negative about Rocco and what he said. I'm just playing off what he said. But we need to also treat our board members with respect and not attack them, with falsehoods.
Thank you, Jenna. Matthew Borrelli, same question.
So I think what was been said about packages is pretty complete from my perspective. The work that's being done, the cameras, the committees, the various possible solutions. I do think that the board has a responsibility that it needs to make some decisions here. And I'm concerned that we at times are not able to make decisions, and we will defer for political reasons. And so my concern is that on this topic, maybe that is what's happening. And so I will be trying to challenge the board in its very, very, very busy schedule to refocus on that topic, because it is a very vexing problem for us as a board. I want to just go back to the environmental issue. One of the things when we change the method in which we generate power for all of us is that we have to pay for the equipment that we purchase and put into the power plant. And so we do engage in political activity to make sure that they don't pass legislations, which occurred recently, that we get the time that we need to pay for the engines that we buy. But we do need to get to the point where we are moving at the right speed towards a carbon neutral position. We will probably have to rejoin Con Ed at some point. We will probably work very hard to negotiate with our vendor regarding putting charging stations in our parking lot. That is not an easy thing to do. It is not going to be quick and fast, but I know from people communicating with me that that's something they want, and I want it too.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Okay, we are finished with the question portion of this meeting. Now we're going to have 2-minute closing statements. Petra, do you want to call on people?
Sure.
Starting with Matthew?
Absolutely. So Matthew, we'll start with you. Closing statement, 2 minutes, please.
All right. So thank you for listening to me this evening. Again, I hope that you will vote for me again. Just a bit of information. You vote for 5 board members. Those 5 board members join the current 10 that are not running. They then elect the officers right after the election. So please go out and vote. Looking forward, our Penn South community has 3 topics of critical importance. Embracing community conversation on diversity and inclusion, which I think we've kicked that off recently, and I really am very passionate, and I want to make sure that we don't lose the momentum on that. We need to select a new general manager. This is a very big task. We're working very hard on that. Our committee is putting in numerous meetings, and I believe that we will be making a selection. And the final thing is navigating the financial fallout from COVID and what it's had on our commercial tenants. We are potentially looking at an 18% drop in our revenue stream. This, if not replaced in some other way, is going to be devastating to our people who live on fixed income. And so I'm working very hard with the interim general manager, renegotiating leases with current vendors, trying to keep them in place. We will be talking to the city and looking for ways for them to bring funding in our direction. And I have to note that our cooperators have not really changed their pattern of payment. They're behaving like troopers. We are collecting at the same levels we were prior to this pandemic. So please vote for me. Thank you for your support in the past. Hope to see you around the campus.
Thank you, Matthew. Next person up, Gerard Pimpano, please.
No, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jenna Feist. Sorry, Jenna.
That's okay. I think it's hard to confuse us, but so thank you all so much for watching this long, somewhat repetitive in terms of the questions presentation. it's really important who you vote for the board. We are running, supervising the management office. We are running the cooperative. We are responding to your issues, and having people who have business experience, having people who have professional experience, having people who actually have people reporting to them is important, because those skills are necessary for understanding what happens in an office, what happens in a normal place where people complain and things get dealt with. And I think that the new opening of our manager gives us an opportunity to reorganize our management office, look again at our different processes, refresh how the relationship of the management office and our employees and our residents is established. And that's really important, because we haven't had the ability to do that in many years. And, Sarah has made a number of points about the manager sort of running things. And that is true. That is my experience in the past. And I really hope that through the process of choosing a new manager and updating our structures, we have a more cooperative relationship between the board and the manager, and a more normal, in my experience, relationship between the board and the manager. We have very few people who actually deal with corporate boards professionally, and it has often been the case that the few who do, have to educate the rest on how it should actually work. So thank you very much, and please vote for Jenna Feist.
Thank you, Jenna. Rocco, you're up. 2 minutes, please.
So there are two big projects that we need to focus on immediately, right? There's a global pandemic, which impacted our retail space, and it's going to impact our bottom line. And we need to figure out ways to solve for this. I mentioned that in my intro. And we have to figure out ways to solve it for both the retailers and for Penn South. We're looking for a new general manager, and this is a pivotal hire that will impact Penn South for the next 20 plus years, right? This is an important role that doesn't come around every so often. So what we do next is really critical to the success of Penn South and the direction we want to move in. I personally have 15 years of professional experience that lends itself really well to these tasks. I've worked in corporate America. I've hired people. I've hired many people, interviewed hundreds. I've worked with budgets that exceeded $100 million multiple times. And so all this experience ties itself really well to what these key projects are that are happening right now. And so I personally think I am well qualified to help participate and help get Penn South moving in the right direction. So I humbly ask for your vote. I'm Rocco Wadamanelli, and it would be my pleasure to serve you for a third term. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocco. And Lloyd.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the folks who are watching tonight. I'm listening to everyone talk, and it's very interesting. I just want to remind the co-op that we have 15 board members. So many board members bring different experiences, some business, some legal, some with all different types of backgrounds, whether accounting. But I think the strength of the board is its diversity. So, you want a board that just not everyone can have business experience, and then that's how you solve problems. We have people with great expertise, thank goodness. But we also need folks on the board who can address social issues, who can talk to diversity, who can really know how to deal with that. We have board members that are really equipped for that. I myself have an entertainment background and an interest in our cultural development. So that's why I'm very involved with our clubs, with our wood shop, with our garden. I want to see a new garden established in the co-op so we can take a list of 200 and whittle it down. I want to see music moved into a studio where children and adults can take lessons and practice. I want to see an art studio where people have an outlet, a creative outlet, and they don't have to do the paintings in their apartment. At the same time, I do realize that the board members need to be aware of the financial issues that we're discussing tonight and what we're looking at in the near future. I just want to add to that yes, we are looking at our tenants and what's going on with rentals, but we also need to look closely at our budget. We need to make sure we don't approve of unnecessary items in the budget. For example, we had something came up that we wanted to spend $20,000 to take the sand out of one of the parks because of a cleanup issue. And I urged the board to wait on that and not to spend the money. We need to look at those types of things each and every month where we can save wherever we can. We also need to look at our amenities. And this could be a tremendous source of revenue.
Your time is up, Lloyd.
So thank you very much. And please vote for me. My name is Lloyd Blazen.
Thank you, Lloyd. So the next person is Sarah. Sarah Khan, you're up.
Thank you, Petra. So I don't know if I can express to you what Penn South means to me. I've lived here my entire life, and I'm the third generation of my family to live here. My grandparents were original cooperators, and my grandfather was the treasurer on the board of directors for many years. My parents still live here in Building 6. I enjoyed a very happy childhood here, where I roller skated on the blacktop with my friends from my building. I played in the sand park, and I enjoyed a feeling of security because I knew my neighbors. Because of growing up here, it is ingrained in me that participating in and giving to the community is of the utmost importance. As an adult, I participated in lobby patrol when it existed. And then when I had my own children, I became involved in the parents committee. As part of the parents committee, we held Halloween parties, outdoor movie nights, spring candy hunts, teen nights, and many other events. However, we wanted to do something for the broader community, not just the families with young children. We started to have affordable fitness classes for adults, a book club, and the Community Day Barbecue, where more than 500 people attend, and which takes a month of planning and shopping to execute. Community is what makes Penn South so special. I also volunteered on the board of directors for 9 years. It is through this service that I have done some of my most important volunteering. I chaired committees such as lobby design, lighting committee, election committee, and operations. I've always helped fellow cooperators with any problems they brought to me, and I'm always happy to stop on the street and talk. As I said before, we do have serious challenges before us. Now we are picking a new general manager. We need to work on racial equity. We need to make sure we are financially sound in order to keep affordability and our limited equity status. And we need to have a board that's going to serve our cooperators.
Thank you, Sarah. Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Gerard, you are next. 2 minutes, please.
Yes, I'm with you once again. I would like to just pick up on the idea of having more diversity on the board. And I think that it is needed and it's true. And I think we should try to enlist people of color, Hispanics, Chinese. We have a great Chinese population in the development to step forward and run for the board. Either by recommendation of other board members or maybe a committee to see if there are people who are available and willing to run for the board and serve the co-op. The co-op to me, over the years, especially since I've moved in, it's a beautiful, diverse community. I mean, this is the most diverse community that I've ever been associated with. And you can see all the positive aspects of it. And it's necessary not only to make that continue, but to make it grow, to keep the development a affordable development. And there are challenges with COVID-19 and the commercial properties. And I think a good look at each lease, because every vendor didn't suffer as much as the other. And hopefully, God willing, this won't be forever. Hopefully the vaccine will come out, depending on who you ask, soon. And the city, I think, will come back. It's always come back. So we can't do new leases for long periods of time. We have to cater them to fit our financial needs. And of course, where's the shortfall going to come from? I'm sure that's going to be a very difficult problem. I want to thank everybody for their time, and please vote for me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Last but not least, Mr. Sasha Backman Smith.
Thank you, Petra. Thanks everyone for hanging in there for this long meeting. And first off, I just miss seeing everyone at the in-person event. You know, kind of, it makes me a little sad that we're not able to interact with all the cooperators the same way. I want to make something clear. We talked about some issues. We talked about carbon neutral and going green. We talked about diversity. The time for these things is now. I don't know that I hear it enough. And, you know, sometimes I take, I cut across the grain. If you look at the board minutes, you know, I vote against the board majorities because we have to take a stand and make the right decisions. And sometimes the time is exactly now. And that's what we have to do for many of these issues. I also want to talk about, I think it's incredibly hard for cooperators to get in touch with the board. And I'm working to relaunching the board webpage on our website with better ways to get in touch with the board. One of the ways that we can react better to the community is by having clear ways for cooperators to communicate with us. I'm running for re-election because we need to keep Penn South affordable and limited equity. We need to keep Penn South well-managed and well-maintained. And I will continue to help steer Penn South through this pandemic by controlling costs, making smart decisions, and working to keep our community safe. We need transparency. We need accountability to ensure that information is readily accessible to cooperators. And we need to embrace technology to allow us to do more and lower costs. Throughout my 6 years on the board, 9 years on the Co-op Council, I have and will continue to advocate for cooperator involvement in key decisions. As a board member, I work to represent the needs of all cooperators through outreach and engagement.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you. So please vote for me for re-election to the Penn South Board of Directors. I'll continue to work tirelessly for you and provide leadership and oversight to keep us running smoothly today and in the days and years to come. Thank you.
Morris?
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Mario Manzoni to give out some information, and then we'll close the meeting. Mario?
Hi, guys. I want to just first do something that we normally do when we do the in-person meetings, which is to give a big thank you to the election committee co-chairs, Morris Benjamin, Petra Shine. I think you did a terrific job of coordinating this meeting. I can say in my role at the management office, you've done a wonderful supportive job on my end of making sure this event was a success. So thank you very much for your role. And to all cooperators, I'd like to remind you that this was the first of a couple of events related to the annual elections. I'm showing right now on the screen, if this is visible, the upcoming events for the election. So first, the upcoming event next is that the proxy forms will be mailed starting tomorrow. So please be on the lookout for your directed proxy form. And you can return this even if you don't have a decision to make on the candidates, because we need a quorum of 1/3 of all households in the co-op submitting a proxy as a way of participating in the meeting. So you can vote for up to 5 candidates, fewer than 5 candidates, or no candidates, and just check the box that says for proxy quorum only. This year, for the first time, there will be the ability to vote for candidates or for quorum by submitting your proxy online. And we will continue to offer the same options that we've offered in the past for you to submit your proxy by mail. And there will be voting on the day of the election, which this year is November 8th, 2020. So please be on the lookout for your proxy form. Submit it either online or by mail. The instructions will come with the proxy form, and do that as soon as possible. The next event related to the elections of the board members is Thursday, October 15th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. There'll be an informal meet and greet the candidates meeting. This is conducted by Zoom, which is what we used for today's meeting. Ideally, it's best if you can join by a computer. Second best would be joining by smartphone. And if you don't have either of those, you can still participate in the meeting through the telephone. You just won't have the benefit of seeing what is going on for you in front of you, but you can still participate, and we'll make sure that you get a chance to talk to the candidates you want to. This is your chance in an unstructured environment to talk one-on-one with candidates. All of the candidates for the board will be there that night, and you can let the people running the meeting, I'll be one of them, know who it is you'd like to talk to, and it can be multiple people. It could be everybody if you want. So you get to pop into their special Zoom room and pop out and go to the next room. So please use this opportunity to meet your board members, future board members and candidates at the informal meet and greet the candidates meeting on October 15th. And then, of course, the annual meeting, November 8th, Sunday at noon, following our normal schedule that we normally do. But this year, of course, due to the pandemic, we will be having this meeting virtually. Just like we have done this evening, to make it as easy as possible for shareholders to participate, the annual meeting will be broadcast on RCN Channel 98 for people who don't have computers. And for people who do have internet connections, I recommend that you go right here to the Penn South website. We have the annual election page right here. It's the 2020 annual election page, pennsouth.coop/2020-annual-election.html. And as you see, you're able to watch a live stream of what's going on at the annual meeting. And we will be rebroadcasting this event as well as the annual meeting after the fact for people who are not able to watch it live. So in whatever ways you can, all of them if possible, we hope to see you at future events related to the 2020 election. And we hope to see you on November 8th at the 2020 annual meeting of shareholders. I'm going to turn this back to you, Morris and Petra.
Okay. So in closing, I'd like to just first thank Mario. This would not have happened without Mario. I mean, it's nice that he gave Petra and I a lot of credit because we did work with him, but his leadership was amazing. He worked with us on Saturday, on Sunday, and he was sick.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't stop him. Thank God it wasn't COVID. But so thank you, Mario.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. I'd like to thank all 7 candidates for their participation, especially this year, because this is a very, very difficult year. And it's great to see 7 people running for this board. It shows people are concerned. It shows that people want maybe change, but people want to participate. Last couple of years, there was no opposition, which is great too. If you're a board member, it's fine. You get reelected. So thank you, candidates. I wish all of you a lot of luck. Keep campaigning, and make sure you're at the Meet the Candidate informal meeting. Petra, you want to say something?
Oh, really, there's not much more to add, Morris, to what you've said. Mario, thank you so much. It's you who did most of the work. And me as a newcomer, I just, I read it all, I took it all in, and
And you did a
followed.
great job.
Quite
as a
interesting, I have to
newcomer.
say. No, it is interesting, and it's a great learning experience. Thank you for that opportunity. But thank you all.
Let me give one last shout out tonight.
Go ahead.
Oops, I'm sorry. We have a little delay with Zoom sometimes, but otherwise it's a terrific format. I want to give a shout out to the people who have run the production also, and that's the excellent technicians at the SVA Theater.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We have the benefit at Penn South that very few places have, in part because of the great location of Penn South, of really attracting really high quality commercial tenants. And SVA Theater, we're lucky to have them. They normally host this event in person, and this year they are producing the event via Zoom. And we wish that there were more ways cooperators could support SVA Theater in the pandemic. But as a reminder to cooperators, this is a excellent chance and a reminder that when you can support commercial tenants, do the ones at Penn South. To help both them survive in the community and in turn help the Penn South budget by keeping them where they are. And I think for that, we should close the evening, but thank you very much to all the folks who made it happen.
Thank you all and have a good night.